Maybe a little bit from talking to journalists and stuff, you know. Maybe a little bit. They don't harp on about New Order and the Smiths quite so much as they used to. I tend to think sometimes that people overanalyse their records and don't just sort of listen to them. You know, just give them a quick play and go, yeah, I like that tune. No, I don't like that tune. They go, well, how does this relate in the context of the band's history? And, you know...
I'm still trying to work out a way to answer that question because it's being asked us all the time at the moment. And
I think
I suppose the answer is...
On the other hand, we're both really proud of the two bands. New Order and the Smiths. We're both really proud of what we've done with them. Don't get me wrong, we're not got a downer on that. It's just that both those bands left such an indelible mark.
Obviously, neither of us are going to complain about it because both, as Bernard said, we're very proud of what we've done, and it's just one of those things where if the standard is pretty high, and in both our cases, we've been involved in groups that were really well liked. Bernard with Joy Division and No Order, and me with the Smiths. It gives you kind of you have to really shoot at something pretty high, but kind of being Mr. Philosophical about it. If that's what our destiny is, and we have to shoot pretty high, then we have to shoot pretty high. Great. It does add a little bit of a certain kind of... It does add a lot of pressure, actually, to be honest. And I think on the second record, but both Bernard and myself were maybe subconsciously aware of the attention that we were going to get, and then we then in turn put our too much attention maybe on the record and just basically took too long doing it. But once we got over that hurdle, it's kind of gives a little bit of a freedom on this record, because we've been through that process of like putting a magnifying glass on what we do, and of course there's an element of it in what for everybody that you want it to be as good as it can be. But we just thought, well, we've done it, we can't do that to ourselves again. Spend like two years making a record, and I think this record is all the better for that realisation.
Yeah, we did this. It took 3 months to record and mix this, which is pretty fast for us, really. I think the previous one took 2 years. And we were very aware of that, We just wanted to stop ironing out all the creases in the record. Because also, on the previous album, there was a lot of technology involved, and the computer was involved a lot, and with computers being so powerful, you can do loads and loads of stuff with them that really shouldn't be doing. Right, you can iron out all the lumps, get rid of every last mistake, and I think people find perfection boring. Really, they like to hear a few mistakes. It's like if you take a piece of furniture from IKEA, and then you get a beautiful old antique, people go for the antique every day because there's loads, it's been banged about and knocked, and you can see the hand that made it, I think we've kind of realised that's an important part of music, that people want to hear the mind behind the work, and not just hear something that's perfect and polished.
In the past, really, for like 7 years, both Bernard and myself have had no distinction between writing and recording, like a lot of musicians who are kind of non-rock group kind of based, thinking like dance musicians and other kind of duos. We use the studio almost like an instrument, which was an idea which was pioneered pretty much in pop music by Brian Eno, really, and we did have some common ground there, and we were into that. We were into using the studio like an instrument. So we would come in every day and methodically chip away and write and try lots of different ideas and experiment. And with this record, we took a different approach in that Bernard and I would still get together, but we'd get together just a few times each week. And because we spent a couple of days or a few days away from each other, the ideas were percolating. So we'd get together and each of us would have a couple of pretty strong ideas. So we'd have a couple of strong ideas and we'd work on them, and we worked on them pretty quick with 2 guitars.
We kind of worked on 3 songs at a time as well, didn't we? Rather than in the past, we'd write all the music for the album, and then I'd hit the lyric, hit the vocals. And on the last one, I think I had 12 vocals to do in like 2 weeks, lyrics and
Yeah.
melodies, and it all got a bit too much. So on this one, we decided to sort of bite off smaller chunks and let's do 3 songs at a time, finish them, work on another 3, which helped.
Plus, we knew we had musicians on this record, which was a first for electronic. Because the idea with electronic, I'm not sure whether people realise, is that we were formed as very much as an anti-group. Both of us had been in groups, and we knew of the great things about being in a group, but we knew from first-hand knowledge of some of the downsides of being in bands. So in a certain way, it was almost like a refuge for the two of us to be able to still make music and be intense about music and try and be a little bit kind of pioneering in our own way, but with just 2 of us. And that was the foundation of what we were about. Now, just with the passing of time, you know, you want to change, and things change, and circumstances change. And we put together some musicians to play some just televisions and things on the second record, and we kept those musicians for the third album. Now, Bernard, electronic will always be, as everyone knows, just myself and Bernard, but we did feel like we had a little bit more of a kind of family atmosphere going on. So we would write the songs, and then when we got the songs to a certain level, we would then, instead of going into detail, we would just write a bunch more songs, which kept it fresh for me and Bernard. We stayed in sort of ideas mode rather in production mode, and then we take those songs to get the band together, and then it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, switch on the recording machine, and we actually went from one extreme to another, because even regular bands don't really, you know, these days don't very often end up with the first or second or third take, as it were, on the record, and almost every song on this record is the first, second or third take.
Well, I worked with Arthur on Confusion by New Order in 1963, Thieves Like Us, and
Salvation.
we realised when we sort of got a bit into this album that it was going to be pretty rocky and guitar based, and we just wanted a producer that had a certain amount of aggression, and I knew that Arthur was quite an aggressive sort of person, really, and also he's not a musician, and we wanted a kind of anti-musician element, really. Arthur's like a music fan, you know, like he's always going to gigs and always buying records and stuff, and we wanted that kind of musician element in there to sort of give us a board to bounce off, really. Yeah, and I've always liked Arthur's beats as well. I like the beats that he's done. They're quite brutal, and we thought it'd be a good choice, really. Well, can we just say that as well, that the production, it was really co-production between the band, Arthur, our engineer Jim Spencer, who probably worked harder than any of us put together, really, you know, and a guy called Merv DePayer that used to be a keyboard player in Cameo, and he should be doing the interview, really, shouldn't he, because he's miles more interesting than us two.
Pretty unusual.
He's very unusual.
A bit of a jazz cat, but he rocks. He's a good musician. With us, we're associated with people like, obviously, Neil Tennant and Chris Lowe. Cal Bartos was on the second album, and on this album we used less famous musicians, but nonetheless people who are important to us, you know. And we've got Jed Lynch again, who played on our second album, who was the drummer in, mostly known for his work with Black Grape, and he played drums on all the album. And we've got a friend of ours called Jimmy Goodwin from Manchester, who's a great writer and a really good singer, who sang backing vocals and played the bass guitar on a lot of the songs. So that was the nucleus. Bernard, myself.
He's in a new band in Manchester called Doves.
Yeah, Jimmy's in this band called Dove. So there's Bernard, myself on guitars and vocals, Jed Lynch on drums, and Jimmy Goodwin on bass. And then we bumped into this girl called Astrid Williamson, who used to be in Goya Dress, who's now a solo artist on Nude, Astrid, and she sang backing vocals on a lot of the tracks, which was fortuitous for us, really, that we met her, because we both of us like girl singers, and we've looked for that kind of very obviously white voice in the past and never really kind of found it. We found that, you know, quite often when we tried it in the past, it was sometimes too wistful or folky or whatever. And in Astrid, I think we've got someone who really works well with Bernard's voice.
On the first album, it was a matter of getting used to working together and getting to know each other, which took about a year, you know. It took a long time, because we knew each other, we didn't know each other that well, did we?
No.
You know, and Jonny had to get his head round the way that I worked, which is quite different from Jonny, and I had to get my head around, you know, the way he worked, because Jonny's a very accomplished musician, and both me and New Order kind of don't really know what we're doing, but
You like it that way,
we end up doing it, you know, somehow we end up doing it, but I like it that way, because that means that every time I write a new song, it feels like it's the first time I've written the song. I didn't know I did it last time. So we had to kind of gel, you know. I guess that's gelled now. We appreciate both ways that we do it. Although I'd say that through working with Jonny, I've become a more accomplished musician.
Yeah, and I've become less accomplished. Which I'm grateful for, actually, which I'm glad about. I think
I broke a few of his fingers.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, because we started off in two separate kind of areas, and we're known that we're in two different kind of gangs, if you like. I don't think people realise that we've sort of lived in each other's pockets for 8 or 9 years, really. I mean, with the exception of when Bernard went to do Republic by New Order and I went to do their album. I mean, I was around the studio when they did Republic anyway. You're not going to get rid of me now, easy. Me and Neil Tennant went down there when he was recording and all the rest of it. And what we would do on both our previous albums is we'd work intensely for 6 days a week, every week, and then we'd have like a deadline where we were going to have a holiday, and then we'd have a holiday, but we'd go on holiday together, and then we'd come back off holiday and we'd work again like that. So, you know, I'm known for. Yeah, I'm most known for having, you know, my partnership with Morrissey, saying Bernard's known for his partnership with the members out of New Order, but it's the longest running partnership I've been involved with, like a sort of, you know, 8 years or something. So we just kind of get along sort of sickeningly well. In fact, we're due a big scrap.
How long did this mix go for?
5 years.
Is that all?
Yeah. So, you know, it has been, I mean, for me, you know, because I'm pretty intense about what I do, and, really, I'm really intense, so it takes a certain
extremely intense, yeah.
It takes a certain kind of personality to put up with me for so long, and,
I just have to throw buckets of water over him occasionally, you know, cope.
Easy!
Come to your senses.
Settle!
Jonny,
Calm down.
you're going hysterical.
It's only a fade. It's only a fade. It was Late at Night is one of those examples of a song which is half written by me and half written by Bernard, which is personally the way I like to work. And yeah. Bernard's saying, I've got this bit, and I was saying, right, well, we could go there, and then we sort of, you know, get to a certain point, and we wrote it really quickly. Lyrically, as usual, I got no idea what he's going on about, but it sounds good.
Do you know what, Jonny? I've got no idea what I'm going on about on that one, no.
Pretty up-tempo and very guitar-orientated, with a kind of upbeat chorus with backing vocals on. Yeah. A certain attitude of don't get too analytical about it. You know, it was it's much more straightforward, because I try to I've just tried all sorts of different techniques over the years, different kinds of layering, and you know, I was of the opinion for a long time of you know, why use one guitar when 10 will do. And that's great, and I might do that again at some other point, at some other time. And you know, I've actually done records, certainly in the days of the Smiths, where there was 15 different guitar tracks on, and it only sounded
guitar orchestra.
It only sounded like 12. Whereas on this, you know, you had to really, really twist my arm to do like 2. And I just felt as a guitar player, I felt really inspired, and I just thought, right, well, you know, what I'm doing just off the cuff is right. And I was really, really happy doing this record, playing the guitars on it. I just got really inspired. I must say, Bernard's given me a lot of stick, a lot of encouragement in that department. The
I used to moan
inferences.
at Jonny to play more guitar because I said, look, if you don't play more guitar, people blame it on me. Really, it was. I parried this one over to Jonny because it was he originated this song, didn't you?
Thanks, Bernard. Yeah, it was. It came to me when I was about 10 minutes after I got up. It was given to me while from the cosmos, from a higher level. Now I was just making a cup of coffee one morning. I'd only just got up, and I heard the whole tune pretty much, and it's one of those rare occasions when something comes really quickly, and that normally means it's either pretty good or it's just like a stinker. So you kind of learn in those situations to just find the nearest bit of recording equipment and get it down because it might be a good one. So that's what I did, and I put it down pretty quickly, and then got it over to Bernard, and Bernard did some lovely singing on it and put some good words on it, and wrote the sort of main chorus part now, really, didn't you?
Yeah, I did that to it, didn't I?
Yeah. So it's one of those that was worth just grabbing a tape recorder and putting it down, I think.
Well, in the past, a lot of my lyrics have been about me and about my personal problems, and basically me moaning in New Order, whinging about all my personal problems.
Whinging about writing lyrics.
Yeah, whinging about writing lyrics. Well, let's just say I have a very personal nature, but on this album, they're more about the outside world. In fact, the song Flicker, which is one of my favourites off the album, is directly about the outside world. It's just a series of news items, chained one after another, over the past couple of years, So it's more about what's going on out there than what's going on in here, and that's because really there's nothing going on in here anymore. No, what I mean is, I'm not a disturbed personality anymore. I ain't got any personal problems anymore. I'm a pretty sort of just this side of miserable, really, now. The story with that one is that we wrote it as a straight kind of like pistol sort of track, straight ahead rock track, and we've been working with this guy, part of the production team, because it has been a production team, this album, rather than produced by Arthur. It's been obviously me and Jonny, Arthur, our engineer Jim, and this guy used to be the keyboard player in Cameo, Merv de Payer, and he was our kind of he was the guy that messed up all our tracks, really. We used to hide him away in a little room at the studio, and he'd have a little programming set up, and he how can I put it on? I don't know if you can say this, but he used to smoke vast quantities of pot, really, and we'd take our tapes.
Herbal refreshment,
yeah. Yeah, he used to smoke herbal refreshments, and we would take our band songs, which sounded good and rocking, and we'd stick them under the door and say, here you go, Merv, there's a couple more, and he'd kind of pull them apart and experiment on them, and like he'd turn my voice around backwards and distort stuff, and basically get the track into his headspace. So and Arthur did some of the beats on that at the beginning, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, slowed down half-speed beats, and yeah.
My idea for it was that I wanted to hear Bernard's voice almost sort of like drowned, really, by because I never get the chance. But I just thought it'd be really good, almost like a sort of whirlwind, really, of sound going around Bernard's voice.
Which it is. That's how it turned out.
That's how it turned out. Yeah. So one of the first things we did when we recorded the track, without going into all the technical things, we just made this like mad kind of electric wind kind of sound, which sounds like a Mark Bolan song, doesn't it? We just made this really mad song, and then we jammed over the top of it.
British Michael song,
Electric Wind, yeah. Jammed over the top of it, and some of it was improvised. Some of what Bernard was doing was improvised, and the take is the first time the band ever heard it or played it. And there's there's always something pretty special in that, you know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it kind of was experimental. We had the loose blueprint for the song, but then we kind of, you know, it started off a little bit kind of krautrocky, you know. So in some ways you can liken it to, you know, Public Image or something like that, maybe.
It's actually my favourite song on the record because I think it's quite original. I don't think it sounds like any kind of real pop music that's been done before. And my idea for it really was to get almost like just a sound effect and get a bombastic kind of whirlwind of sound, really, with Bernard in the middle of this sort of vortex of sound, and we got up with some really weird kind of strange, almost like a krautrock kind of song. It's kind of inspired by the band Noi, and then Bernard wrote the words and the tune over the top, and we did it in first take, and it was almost like a sort of half improvised sort of piece of music, and I think it's my favourite track.
It's a line from the title track on the album. There's a song called Twisted Tenderness, and the title for that song came out of the lyric within the verse, so it's kind of chain reaction, really. Title finding its way through the ranks. It's just that Jonny, bail me out. Jonny, quick, Jonny. What?
Most of Bernard's titles are kind of just good phrases that are sort of, you know, handles for songs, really. I mean, I think New Order and Joy Division had some of the best song titles ever, really, which is weird because they actually weren't that bothered about them. It's from what I've been told. But anyway, we had the title track, we had the record, we had the song, and at the time the album was made, every single person involved with us, except for Bernard and myself, had been dumped by their partner, basically. And it was a strange atmosphere around us. Bernard and myself were kind of like, you know, the Dr. Ruths of the album, you know, people would come to us with their problems. And because we're just sharing, kind of giving guys, aren't we? It was just weird. Everybody was going through emotional turmoil except for Bernard and myself, and we thought it was a great title for the song. And we were on the lookout for an album title, and one of us just decided, that'd be a good album title. I think it is, actually. I think it's a really strong album title.
As I was saying earlier, Arthur Baker's got quite an extensive knowledge of rock music, sort of, you know, from the 60s onwards. And one weekend, we were having the weekend off, and he asked me had I heard the Blind Faith album, and I'd never heard it, because growing up, just because of the sleeve, really. When you're growing up in the 70s, you're not really going to buy a record with that sleeve, and so anyway, I'd never heard it.
What's the sleeve then?
It's a sort of naked, very young girl holding a sort of very phallic-looking plane, farmer's daughter. You didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't know.
Right, I'll have to edit all this stuff out. But anyway, Arthur had played me this Blind Faith album, and I listened to it over the weekend, and I really kind of liked that entire album, actually. And particularly the song Can't Find My Way Home, and then when I came back in on the Monday, Arthur had kind of had an idea, because I liked it, to play it to Bernard, with, you know, the idea of Bernard singing it, and he felt that Bernard could do a good job of it, and we almost kind of bullied Bernard into doing it in a way, but it sounded good, didn't it? What you hear is the first time Bernard ever sang it, and I think again that gives it a certain kind of.
I mean, I was a bit iffy about doing a cover version on the album, to be honest, because I don't think I've ever done one. I don't think I've never done a cover version. Oh, we did for a radio session once. We did a Keith Hudson track, and you know, called "Turn the Heater On," which is a nice track, but never on record. You know, we never done it on record. So I was a bit iffy about doing a cover version, especially since we had so many songs written anyway. But when they played me the track, I just liked the song, and but it's not really something I don't really know about Blind Faith or Stevie Winwood or.
The irony, you know, it is ironic, as it's been pointed out to us, because we spent the first year and a half being electronic, denying that we were actually Blind Faith, because Neil Tennant, in his infinite wisdom, had called us the Blind Faith for the 90s, the whole supergroup thing and everything. And then we finally, first time we ever
which we hated.
First time we ever do a cover version, when it's happened to be a Blind Faith song, that's weird. I'd like it to. I'd like for us to sort of get across to more people in Europe, actually, because I was a little bit disappointed with so far with the with what's going on in Europe, really. It just seems that when we've been over there, either socially or on promotional visits, there are a lot of people who aren't really aware that we've done what we've done. So I know it's a strange one, really. I've only just sort of kind of working this one out, but I would like that to happen. Speaking personally, though, I've got to say that, and this might change, that I'm just sort of still both. I feel actually very, very grateful to whatever and whoever that I'm still kind of making pop music that gets attention. I think it takes a lot of work, and it's, I know, speaking for the two of us, that we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, really. I think the assumption is that maybe because we've had success, that we take it very easy, and nothing could be further from the truth. I think it gets more difficult, actually, and so there is a lot of work gone into it and into what we do, and there's a lot of thought gone into it and a lot of intent. But still, I don't know, maybe it's my age or something, but I think, well, I've been doing it like men and boy now about 17, 18 years, and I'm still, getting to speak to people like you, and people are saying, oh, you've got a new record coming out, and how's it going to chart and all that, because I think that both of us would still be doing this anyway. That's the amazing thing. Success or no success, we'd still be making records, because it's all we can do, and it's all we want to do, really. And the fact that it gets attention and is still kind of being listened to by younger musicians and younger people and all the rest of it is quite amazing, really. So, that's kind of a big kind of philosophical sort of statement. So all the rest of it for me, speaking personally, the rest of it for me is kind of, all kind of icing on the cake, really. We've never really been a group, a live band, and we were always reluctant to just cobble together a bunch of session musicians, strangers. We're actually more inclined to do what we did on the first album, which was to cobble together a bunch of friends who weren't musicians. And we have to find the middle ground now, musicians and friends. It's either been one or the other for us. And we've put together a band at the moment, and we're rehearsing with a band who are pretty fine. And we've got a good sound and we've got a good set. So on paper we can do it, but we just need to know about the logistics, really. It's a boring kind of technical, logistical question, I think, because it isn't like, it's just like revving up a band right from scratch and technically getting it together. So it's one of those things that if it doesn't take months and months and months to put it together, we'll do it.